Hey, it's Tim.
And it's Amy from GoWithLess. Welcome back to our channel. We're so happy that you're here. We're going to be doing something new today. On the second Wednesday of every month, we're going to be talking about all of our spending from the month before. Tim and I do this together, and we thought that we'd share it with our audience because our audience seems to like when we talk about our spending. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We also, now that we are in the beginning of July, middle of July, we have a whole half year of numbers to talk about. So we're going to talk about kind of our mid-year report. And then I love seeing people's numbers themselves, especially traveling people's numbers. So I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite bloggers with you who talk about their numbers. So if you like this kind of stuff, I'm going to send you to some other resources which I find real helpful. So I hope that you will stay tuned to the video today.
What really prompted this video is the fact that we are over budget mid-year. So that's a little concerning for us. We're going to talk about why that is, why we're over budget. We're also going to share with you what we're doing to correct that for the second half of the year. We're also going to share what our YouTube earnings look like for the month of June. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button below. Also be sure and ring the bell so that you're notified when we come out with a new video. Please give us a thumbs up. And with that, let's get started.
So first, we're going to talk about our yearly spending. We are tracking to be much higher than our normal $36-ish thousand a year. For the past several years, we've just ended up at about $36,000 a year. It's kind of crazy how it's come to that because we don't say we have this amount of money for groceries and this amount of money for travel and this amount of money for utilities. It doesn't work that way at all. We just kind of spend what makes sense for us to spend, where now we've become inherently frugal in our new life, and we just question and think about every dollar that we're spending, which again is not about a life of scarcity. We love this life, but we are now spending almost $25,000 for the first half of the year, and if we multiply that out, we're going to be at close to 50 grand, which is definitely a lot higher than 36.
There are three reasons that our number is a little high for the first half of the year. The first of those is we're just simply spending more money, so we're going to address that. Number two, Amy's going to address, and that are these are things that we call outliers, things that we had to pay for that we weren't expecting in our overall budget. And then number three are what we're going to call front load expenses. And so in the first half of the year, there are certain things that we pay for in full that cover us for the entire year, but we pay for them in the beginning of the year. And that would be property taxes and insurance, in particular, homeowners insurance.
Those numbers that Tim mentioned worked out to $2,500 a year. Because we have a smaller townhome, our property taxes aren't that much, but when you're only living on $36,000, it adds up kind of quickly, and it's nice that we don't have to pay those again in the second half of the year. So that $2,500 is out of our numbers for part 2 of the year. The outliers that Tim mentions were kind of a big deal in the first half of the year. We had glasses for me and for our daughter, and she wears contacts, so we also got her new contacts. We had a new air conditioning unit that was $1,400. We had a new window that was $600. We took our daughter on a trip to Europe that was a combo graduation gift, 18th birthday gift, Christmas gift, but it was really expensive, and it was a wonderful, fabulous trip, but it was really expensive. So that accounted for many thousands of dollars that normally is not in our budget and won't hopefully be in our budget the second half of the year. Now, before you think that we're going to be going back to work next week, thankfully, our 3% rule, our bucket of money, does allow for this spending. However, we want to have a buffer built in. It's really important that we have a buffer built in so that if we need to use our $6,000 deductible each on our health insurance, we have a buffer built in to do that. If we had any major things go wrong with our one car that we now have, we can repair that. There are things that we don't spend up until the amount that we're able to spend so that we can account for these outliers because life happens, we know.
Yeah, so the $36,000 isn't the limit of our spending ability. That's just a number that we've arbitrarily picked that we're shooting for every single year. Here's something about the way we account for our numbers that we think is important to share, and that is we account for the dollars that we spend when we spend them. So we travel a lot, and oftentimes we'll make a trip in May and we've actually purchased the ticket in the prior November. So those sorts of expenses, like that ticket I just mentioned, that would have been accounted for in November. We're not accounting for that real time. So there may be expenses, like for instance, right now we are in Europe, and a lot of this trip that we have in Europe, we paid for months and months and months ago. So when we're discussing our numbers, it's the numbers that we are actually spending, the money we're actually spending real time.
And where that comes into play is that we've already paid for vacation-y stuff through 2019. And so we're hoping that it's a little more smooth sailing, unless there's like weird outlier things that are unexpected for the second half of the year, like all of our travel, other than like food and stuff that we're doing while we're there. So our accommodations, our flights, the big stuff is already paid for.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So as we're going forward with this being a monthly recurring series, understand, and hopefully we remember to say this each month, but the spending that we're talking about is the actual spending. So we might be on vacation quite a bit, but just keep in mind that maybe some of those expenses were in previous months. Now, where did we spend the month of June? We had one night at a house sit in New York City. I'm just looking at a little list here. One night at a house sit in New York City, 12 nights at our house sit in France. One night we were kind of in the air. And
we were in the air, not kinda, thank goodness.
And then we had one night that we were delayed and we were in London, put up by the airline.
The airline. British Airways put us up for a night because we had lots of issues with our travel. So they put us up in London for a night.
And then we had 15 nights at home in Colorado. So I think that ends up with, that's 30 nights for the month of June. So 30 nights, half of them were home, half of them were not home. Also, when we talk about vacation spending in our budget, right now we don't really break it out to be like, here's food on vacation, here's entertainment on vacation. We just have a big lump of vacation. We are going to be 100% on vacation, full-time nomads, starting around February 1st-ish of next year. We're gonna have to do something kind of different with our numbers. Let's get to our spending in June. We spent $4,144. What we're gonna do now is break it into like buckets. So we're not gonna say, here's how much we spent on this day for groceries, but here's how much we spent on food, dining, and groceries. So take it away with category number one.
So category number one is something that we call home. It was $1,410 to repair the air conditioner.
Yeah, and we are getting ready. And we're getting ready to sell our home. We're going to list it around Thanksgiving time. And we're doing things to make our home look really nice. And that's just how that goes.
It's easy to sell so we don't have any issues that we have to deal with as we're trying to sell the home.
Yeah, we wanted to turn over a home that's in great condition. So brand new air conditioner. Now, category number two is our auto. And it's kind of funny, when we weren't even home for half the month, that our auto was our second category, but it was $940, and that's because it includes half a year of auto insurance and our registration for the year for our car. Ooh. We only have one car, by the way. So in the first half of the year, we went down from 2 cars to 1 car.
Yep. All that expense will be gone next year when we are carless. So the next category is travel. We spent $624 in this bucket. So this would include anything that we do when it's on the road. I think there was dining we have in this category, any travel that we're purchasing, like if I prepay for Airbnb gift cards and we're going to use them months down the road, those would be accounted for real time. So we spent $624 in June for various travel things.
Now, category number 4 is utilities of $398. I was really surprised it was that high, but that's because I kind of forget our HOA, our fees, our monthly fees are $240 a month. That includes our water, that includes a lot of snow removal. We had massive snow this year. So that includes all the lawn service, so we can lock and leave our home because we have someone else kind of taking care of all that at home for our community.
And likewise, that will be gone next year when we are out of our home. So the next category is going to be food and dining. So this is only when we're at home. And so we spent $197 in this category, and that would be groceries we buy at the grocery store as well as eating out.
The next category is another outlier. It's our daughter's contacts. $176 for 6 months of contacts makes the list.
Our next category is going to be our health, and this is going to be a little weird this month because we got a rebate from a doctor. We had paid them and they reimbursed us, and it was some weird insurance situation. But we only spent $122 last month for our health insurance. Our health insurance is about $438 a month. That's between the 2 types of insurance that we have, as well as we have a $100 gym membership that we also have on a monthly basis.
And if you're interested in our health fees, I'm going to put a video up top here that talks all about the stuff that we do with our health because it's kind of crazy. Now, the last category is other, and anything that's under $100 a month, I'm not going to be breaking down because it's just too much. But that is $277 as a category. That covers all shopping, personal care, which is haircuts and stuff, fees, our safety deposit box renewed, gifts, our business expenses for our website and stuff like that, entertainment. Our entertainment is pretty cheap. I think it was only Spotify was all that we had used. So that's $277. That means that we're coming in, as I mentioned, mentioned, at $41.44 for the month, which is high.
Yep, again, if you do the math, this is very easy math, but $36,000 a year works out to $3,000 a month. So we are obviously over that, and we're going to make some adjustments. In terms of reining it in or trying to make it so that we can meet that $36,000, Amy and I did some math today, and I think we're actually probably going to end the year closer to maybe $37,000 or maybe even 38 grand if we do what we intend to do.
And we don't have more outliers.
And we don't have more outliers. So most of the things driving that $25K that we spent year to end of June were things that were just extraordinary expenses. Some of them we expected, some of them we didn't. So as long as nothing crazy happens between now and the end of the year and our spending stays in line with how it has historically been, we should be pretty close to that 36K number. Give or take.
I think we're going to rein it in a little bit, so we'll eat a little bit more at home, stuff like that. Now that we know that we're a little high, I think naturally we'll just kind of ease right into tightening the belt a little bit.
And Amy and I played this game last summer when we were on our trip, and we basically set a budget for the day, and we said this is how much we're going to spend for the day, and it sort of kept us in check for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. It was sort of nice to have this just to keep the numbers where we wanted them to be. So we may do something similar for the second half of the year as sort of things sort of come together. So we'll see how that plays out, but for the moment we feel like we're not going to have a problem being pretty close to this 36K number.
And this speaks to how important tracking is. We wouldn't know at all where we were if we weren't tracking. Tim talks about this on a lot of our videos, but it really helps. And we review, not only does he track the numbers, but then we review the numbers. And we find it helpful to not just review the numbers monthly, but then to look at like a bigger picture, because monthly is one thing, but when you look at the, I don't know, the trajectory of a half year or of a year, other things come out. So we find that a good exercise to do. And it's actually quite pleasant. So some might think this is like a drudgery. We like it.
We think it's fun. So also I think
it's fun.
the numbers that when we have these big crazy months, it's sort of nice just to reflect on that and understand what drove that. Is that something that's going to continue, and do we need to do something more drastic to adjust, etc.? And typically the answer for us is, as an outlier, over the course of the year it's not going to be a big deal, but we know it happened and we just have to make sure it doesn't happen again if it's in our control.
Now let's talk about our earnings. This is some fun stuff, and certainly you'll understand when people say that we're not retired because we make YouTube money, how crazy that is. For the month of June, we made $310 on YouTube. That's two people, $310. $155 is what I earned last month. $155 is what you earned this past month. And I am going to say that does not mean that we are not retired, because $155 is insane. That's nothing.
Nope, but it makes for some good meals out.
It does, and we appreciate you watching, but certainly we're not going to be YouTube millionaires like you hear about, and anyone who puts that in the comments of you don't get to be retired because you're on YouTube, you just know why that makes me so crazy. Now, as far as some of the bloggers who are talking about their numbers, we love seeing how much people spend, and we are interested in where they're going because we understand where our money may be able to go further. So there are 4 different blogs that I'm going to give you. I don't know any videos that talk about real in-depth spending from people who are frugal. So it's not just spending, it's people who are frugal in spending, and traveling is what I'm most interested in. So I would love any suggestions down below for video in addition to these blogs. So number 1 is Snail Travelers. They're going around South America and they are spending a month in each place, talking about their numbers. Their spending is insanely low and we're blown away. Number 2 is fifthwheelpt.com. They're physical therapists, and they just, I think that they just became early retirees, and they're now in Europe. They spent a big chunk of time in Asia last year. Really good accounting. They did their numbers a little differently by city kind of area, by city or region is how they did their numbers. Nomad Numbers also spends, a lot of these people are doing slow travel. It's a bit of a combination, but Nomad Numbers does some slow travel. They do these great infographics. I love seeing what they're doing. So they go to often not the most expensive cities, and talk about all of their spending and what they liked and didn't like, love them, and Lammy's Travels. By the way, I'm going to be putting all of the links down below in the video description so that you can go check out and follow their channels. Lammy's Travels is because the couple are the Lambs, and they are also house sitters. They've been house sitting around the world for a long time. As a matter of fact, I think of these four, they're the only full-time house sitters, so we know them through a house sitting community, and they also have an eye. They travel kind of similarly like we do. They like to do all kinds of fun stuff. They go out to eat a lot of meals. So even though they're traveling with an eye toward budget, they still want to have a great time, and that is kind of what we're all about.
That's exactly right. We really love talking about money. Specifically, we love talking about our numbers. We have this conversation every month. We dig deep into the numbers and sort of chat about what's going on. So we hope you enjoyed what we put together today.
Yeah, we want to know what you're doing. Are you tracking your numbers? Are you having a conversation about your numbers? How do you do your budgets? Do you keep money in envelopes that is targeted for specific categories? Do you spend whatever you want and never think about it? Whatever, we would love to know your method for following your money. And if you don't do it, be honest and talk about that too. We hope that you like the video, as Tim mentioned. Please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe over here. Ring the bell so you get our video notification every Wednesday. We'll see you next Wednesday. Au revoir.
Au revoir.